Welcome back to another episode of Founder Stories. I am super excited that you are here with us today to listen to the most amazing story of the most incredible founder. Today, we have the absolute honor to host our dear friend, Gil. Gil is the CEO and co-founder of an incredible company called Orca Security. They have raised over $600 million, are valued at over $1 billion, and have 400 plus employees. So I am super excited to learn all about Gil, who he is on a professional level, who he is on a personal level. So that way we can take his lessons that he's learned and the man he's become and apply those lessons into our own life. Now, before we jump into this conversation, I'm going to have one request from you, and that is please subscribe on whichever platform you're listening on. So that if you are watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're listening to this on audio, so that's iTunes, Spotify, or any other podcast platform, please subscribe and leave a review. Now, without further ado, please enjoy this conversation with Gil. I want to start off this story and take it all the way back before Orca, before Checkpoint, before the Army, before everything else, back to your childhood. What are some experiences from your childhood that you believe has made a real foundation into who you are today, that you could attribute whatever it is on a personal level to the experiences you had as a kid and from your parents and everything?
I think I was very, very lucky. As a kid, I come from a family where I have 4 siblings, 3 brothers and 1 sister, pretty close mesh. And my parents allowed us to have a lot of experiences. You know, we were hiking almost every weekend and doing a lot of activities with a lot of boys. You need to make sure they are out of the house as much as possible if you really like your things. I think over the years, because we had such a diverse experience as kids, I constantly tried to do more in terms of different activities that I was doing. I was in the Israeli Scouts. I was a guide of one of the groups, and later progressed to lead the entire Scout branch in my village.
Wow.
And I think that during these times, it allowed me to consistently, think how to do things differently, how to innovate. I remember when I was in high school, I used to try to arrange, everything for the trips in the Scouts, or buses and communication devices, and make sure that we have security coming with us and stuff like that. And so it was I had the opportunity to have people around me that always pushed me outside of my comfort zone. And I think it made me really comfortable outside of the comfort zone consistently.
Right. Interesting. I like what you said, pushing you outside the comfort zone. Is that something that your parents always try to push you? Like you and your siblings, go ahead, go challenge yourself, go do, try to do something that you're not comfortable with or you're afraid of?
So my parents did it, but not in the way you described. And I learned it only at later phase that they did it, because it didn't feel that way as a kid, but I've witnessed how they do it with my younger brothers.
Okay.
And it led me to understand that they also did it with me. And so, parents always worry, of course. Mm-hmm. And my dad basically said, Gil, you can do whatever you want. Don't do drugs.
Okay.
Don't ride motorcycles, but everything else you can do.
Why not motorcycles?
He had a motorcycle when he was younger. He fell a few times, and I reached the right conclusion that it's not a good decision. So with this very simple rule set, I could have done a lot of things, but you're still, as a parent, you worry. And so what I learned later is that in many cases, my parents just told me to do something that I felt uncomfortable doing. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you a story. My younger brother, he was 10-year-old, and my dad bought him a new bike and new bicycles. And it was in Ramat Gan, and he told him, hey, ride back home. And it was really scary because you had to ride next to the highway, and there's a way to do it safely, but, he's 10-year-old. Right. And I was in the car with my dad, and he asked him, you know how to get there? And he said, yes, I know how to get there. Okay. And you saw my brother was a little bit scared, hesitant to do it, but my dad just got in the car and drove.
Right.
And I was with my dad in the car, and then we circled back and drove behind him the entire way. So my brother probably doesn't know.
Now he's going to know.
Now he's going to know. It's okay. He's already damaged. But doesn't know that my dad was probably scared, probably worried.
Right.
And but didn't want to show that to him and wanted him to gain the confidence and trust. Right. And I think that in that case, they did pushed us out of the comfort zone as long as they felt that it's safe. And when they didn't felt it safe, they tried to make sure it's safe.
Right.
In other means, but it allowed us to, I think all of us have this feeling that we can do anything.
Wow, that's super interesting. That's like incredible. Like that, just that story. First of all, I feel like parents these days, as a parent myself, I don't know if I would ever do that right now. Just because I think we're just living in different times than it was when you grew up, when your brother was growing up. That to just let your kid trust your kid will figure it out.
I don't think it's different times. I think there's a portion here. It's true for kids, it's true for people that you work with, that you need, if you will not allow them to make mistakes, if you will not allow them to have experiences, they will not grow. Mm-hmm. They will not mature. And it's not any riskier today than it was, or it wasn't any safer then than it was today. And my dad had to take measures to make sure that there's some kind of boundaries to what's being done. But at the end, like you do take risks, but you need to let people know that you trust them to take these risks.
Right.
And yeah, sometimes it won't be exactly like you want. It won't be exactly the way you do it. But I can tell you that there's quite a few occasions when I hold my tongue in cases where I know that someone is doing a mistake. Or at least I believe he's doing a mistake, and I let him experience as long the damage is, it's controllable. But also in some cases I'm wrong. Like I thought it was a mistake, I was wrong. And what I love about it is that I'm pleasantly surprised about something that I didn't thought was possible, and someone else showed me that it's possible.
Right. Does this happen a lot? Like all these things, like one, you're surprised at how far people are able to overcome limitations, barriers, within your family life, professional life as a CEO? Are you surprised still a lot?
I think it's always surprising.
Yeah.
And it's almost always more than you think that people can achieve. And of course, there are cases where you push someone too far, or that it was too hard on someone or for someone. Mm-hmm. And I feel bad when that happens. Like I'm not happy that it was too difficult for someone, but in the vast majority of the cases, by far, people enjoy the experiences. And you can take, for example, people that have been in impossible situations in the army or in a situation they came across. Mm-hmm. When you talk to them about these situations, in reflection of time, usually it's an experience that builds their character and not weaken their character. Yeah. Usually, of course, there's exceptions to everything, but the vast majority of these tough experiences are building your character, building your ability, showing you can do more. And I think that, as a CEO, as a leader, it's your responsibility to try to do that. Of course, as a father. And I think also I'm trying to push myself consistently out of the areas where it's easier for me to do some things. It's easier for me to do things for my kid, for someone who's working with me, but sometimes I need to stop myself from doing that.
Right. Interesting. I'm like literally conflicted right now because I want to ask, like as a parent to parent, I want to know how you do it with your daughters. That's like my selfish thing right now. Then there's obviously you as yourself, how you push yourself. But then the third point is like, I want to role play a scenario of how you push an employee, a team member, for them to be able to accomplish something that they themselves think is not possible, that they can't do. So how would you go about motivating someone on your team that thinks that they cannot accomplish something, or they think it's within their limitations and things like that? So how would you go ahead and motivate them to go ahead and push the boundaries?
Usually when you do that, it's really personal in terms of what is the hurdle.
Okay.
Is it self-esteem? Is he equipped? Does he have the tools? Or is it more environmental, meaning are there other people that prevent him from doing it or accomplishing it? And in those situations, what I usually try to show them why there isn't a reason for them to not do that.
Okay.
Or role play in terms of what will happen if not. But I would say that the vast majority of the cases, if you recall the story of my brother, people won't tell you that they don't think they can do it.
Right, correct.
But you'll see that. that they're afraid of what you've just asked, and they're not sure that if they're going to be able to accomplish that or not, and so it's not convincing them that they can at all. It is asking them to do something that you think will help them grow, giving them the attention and mentorship to help it succeed, and or making sure someone else is doing that.
Right. Okay. So you're essentially, like you mentioned, I think you mentioned, I don't know if you mentioned on the podcast, you mentioned it previously on a conversation before, you're providing for them the right framework in order for them to be able to push themselves so they could succeed on this mission, so they could realize that they could accomplish whatever it is that they're accomplishing. But I want to pivot that to yourself now. How do you push yourself to overcome barriers? How do you push yourself to grow? Yeah.
I think that the best way for me to do it is to try to understand really well what's the problem I'm trying to solve. And then I either try to imagine a scenario where it's solved and try to work my way back. Because it then suddenly, when you imagine that it's solved, sometimes it helps you to see the stuff that got it resolved.
Okay.
Or that you need to make it resolved. Okay, let me try to give you an example. Let's say you decide to go skydiving, okay? And so you're jumping off a plane, and what do you do now, right? Okay, so I need to open a parachute, right? Okay, I need a parachute. And when do I open the parachute? Okay, so what's the weather? Like, what do I need when I land? What happens when I land on my feet? Where do I want? So immediately you start, when you imagine the scenario of success, you've achieved what you've accomplished, and you start to think of all of the pillars. You understand you need to learn how to skydive. You need someone to take you on a plane and allow you to jump over it. You need to learn the way to think about the wind speed and where to land, where it's safe to land. And so suddenly, from a situation which personally for me, like thinking of, jumping out of a plane, if I have to do it now, I'll most likely kill myself, to a position where I can build a plan towards doing that. And that's two completely different things, because if you just say, hey, I want to go skydiving, and so now I'll go on a plane and I'll jump, completely miss the fact that you need to do a lot of things before that, and you need to make sure there's the framework to support that. And so similarly, I would say that you can apply it to almost any problem, of imagining it solved and then working your way back. And in many cases, you won't have the complete answers of what you need to accomplish, but at least you would know who to ask what you need to accomplish that.
Yeah. And I would add also, I think once you sit in that meditation state of, thinking about the whole entire problem and thinking about imagining the whole entire thing as if you're successful, also removes the barriers, removes the fear. It also removes the unknown, because you're thinking about everything around there, which is interesting. But I want to take the story now and let's move it towards Orca, which is, Orca, everyone knows right now is a $1 billion company. You've raised over $630 million. You have how many employees?
400
employees. But so before Orca became Orca, the same way before Gil became Gil as an adult, there's a Gil as a child. I'm sure there's Orca as a child. What was the founding story of Orca? And what was that moment that came together, that made all your co-founders come together, which were 8 of them? And why you chose 8, I don't know. I've heard of 4 co-founders. I've never heard of 8. I can only imagine the headache when it came to equity splits. But what was the aha moment that all you 8 decided to come together and say, you know what? We're going to leave our current jobs. We're going to leave our comfortability. We're going to go tell our spouses that we have this crazy idea to go ahead and start a startup. What was that period like?
I think it's way worse than you can imagine. So it actually started in 2 groups. Okay. There was a group of architects that decided to start a startup, and myself and Avi, who was my co-founder, we decided to leave and start a company. We felt that we are in a position, in our life where we accumulated a lot of experience. We've done a lot of stuff, and this will be the next challenge for us in life. And we really wanted to do it. And when we left, we really, really didn't know anything. I remember the conversation I had with Avi and said, you know what, let's go sit on a coffee shop in front of the ocean, in front of the sea, Mediterranean Sea, and try to see if we figure out what to do. And if not, in 6 months, we'll find a new job.
Right.
But it was really burning for us, I think, for many, many years to do something. But because we were both really busy at our day-to-day job and really focused on that, we didn't think at all about what to do. So it's not like people think that you have this idea and then you go and build a company. It wasn't like that at all. It was more of the fact that we decided to build a company. We looked for big problems and then we looked on the idea to do that. Avi was really, really smart in the way that he was thinking about it. Like he consistently thought about how can we make this worthwhile and what can we do in order to increase the chances of success. And so what will increase the chances of success if we'll have a really, really strong team. Okay. And you just asked on equity split, but what does it matter if you have 50% of nothing or a small portion of a huge company? Matters a lot to have a small portion of a huge company, right? Starting a company is a huge investment of your time, efforts, personal life, and so it needs to be worthwhile. It needs to be something that you're willing to really bet everything on. And so we've set off as 8 founders with no idea of what to do.
Right, but how did the two teams come together? Because it was you and Avi, right? We're working together.
The other team, we knew them from Check Point, from where we worked.
And then but they were working separately on their own idea.
Yeah.
And then you guys decided to just come together.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And we've created like this system where the decision making is done by your role in the company. If you're the CEO, the CEO. If you're the CTO, you're the CTO, and so on. So there's and luckily for us, all of the founders that are amazing just put the ego on the side and just went with the role. And Avi and I were more of the managing founders. So even when we had discussions around, taking an investment or not, it was Avi first, then Avi and I discussed it a bit and made a decision, and then we announced to the rest of the team. But it was not that you had to have 8 people on the call to make any decision in the company at all. Actually, fast decision making is critical for your success at the beginning. And I think what we found is that, like, really quickly we found that cloud security is being solved by taking technologies that exist for 30 years and cramped on the cloud. It felt really wrong in the way that it was done. All companies were doing the same thing, and the market did not like what they were doing.
Right.
And we've reviewed Gartner report and Gartner Peer Insights, and we saw that everyone are really miserable with the solutions they have in place. And I think that when we started thinking on the solution, we said, well, people are miserable. They don't like what they have. So they would want a change. So it's a good, ground to start something. The second factor was when we started to think of how to solve it, and we found this unique technology that allows you to do it without installing any agents. We've immediately recognized the opportunity. And we knew it would be powerful because the tech around it is really boring, really requires a lot of dirty work. And it's not as clean as nice, as high-level APIs or leveraging AI and stuff like that. You need to really touch the core engineering of how operation system works, how vulnerabilities work, packages, installations. And so it was a good fit for the team in the sense that we like doing the dirty work for our customers. Right. And we've started we've reached the conclusion it's probably a good way to do it. And it was really fast. It was, I think, like it took us a week or something to came up with the idea. Okay. And I talked to a friend and he said, well, you should go start talking to VCs. And he said, no, we plan to work on our garage for 6 months, do a demo. And he said, no, it's a terrible idea. Go to talk to VCs right now. And we didn't have a presentation or anything. We went to a few meetings with VCs, and some of them were really surprised, looking at the screen, waiting for the presentation to come up. And that's just what we want to do. And we explained we want to solve cloud security in a different way. We believe we have the ability to really make an impact on this industry because of our unique technology and so on. I would say there was a broad, really broad reaction to what we were saying. Some of it said, well, this is a boring market, it's already solved. Some of it were saying that it won't work with 8 founders. There were really broad, and I remember the first investor said, well, this is either the best idea I've ever heard in my life, and I heard a lot of ideas, or you guys are a bunch of scammers and there's no way for that to work.
Wait, did that investor invest?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And after that meeting, I said, look, Avi, I feel that maybe we should try the technology before we continue the discussions, because I don't want that it will come out that we are wrong and people invested in something that doesn't work. And so we just took our laptops and did a POC to the core tech that we believe that will be meaningful, and it worked. And so within, I think, 10 days of that time, like, we got a first term sheet, and everything moved extremely fast from that.
Wow. What was the size of the first term sheet?
6.5 million.
6.5. Wow. If you look at the term sheets these days, we're in 2025 now. 6 million is like cheap for an Israeli cyber company. Now, anything below 9 is like, wait, is something wrong with the founders? Are the founders not the best founders? Because everyone's expecting it's so expensive. It's crazy. So to hear that was 6 million then.
I think usually it was out of the norm then. Like, people looked at us really like, wow, why do you need so much and stuff like that. I think the average check was around 2-3 million at the time for a seed startup. But I will also say that, like, if you ask me now, honestly, I would rather fail fast.
Okay.
And in that sense, like, I wouldn't want, if you ever heard the story of Slack founders, Slack founders have a really interesting story. I think it was the second or third attempt for them to build a game.
Right.
They failed the first time. It turned into a different startup and they sold it. And it failed also this time. And he said that after the 16th pivot of the game, they realized that they cannot build it. And he went to the investors and said, hey, I have a few $1 million left. Take the money back. I'm sorry, it's not working. And so, like, I'm not sure that I would want, $30 million of seed when I'm not sure what I have in my hand, whether it's worth it or not, when I can use it or not, because that could also lead to the fact that you will just, burn all of that money to the end, trying again to knock on the wrong door. Right. With Slack, by the way, the investor told them, no way, guys, go back at it, do something with the money and build a company. And they've built out of that investment. But generally speaking, I think that you should, for sure in the seed and potentially also in the A, you should have what you need in order to either succeed or fail, but not more, not less.
Right. So taking something from the Slack story, were there moments that you guys, over this whole entire story of Orca so far, that you were ready to throw in the towel? Like, you know what, that's it, it's enough, way too hard? Or there were moments that you guys wanted to shut down the company? Challenges that took it to the peak, and then eventually something happened that you were able. It obviously didn't happen because Orca is still around today. But were there stories around that?
We didn't have any point where it was anywhere close to that. Mostly challenges were, I would say, more environmental than just something specific about Orca. 2021. We realized there's a problem in the market, that it's overinflated, and we didn't know what will happen next.
Right.
Okay, and so there were decisions around whether we want to continue, to grow at all cost path, or we should change the path. And if you miss it, if you do it too soon, you lose market share. If you do it too late, it's hard to recover from that path. And I think that luckily for us, I can show you our first pitch deck, and it's not that far than what we are doing today. I still have things that our first customers started using Orca before we had a UI at all. So I created a keynote presentation with explaining him what he needs to do and where is the security risk in his cloud and so on. And we've implemented over the years, literally years, things that was easier to just draw by hand. And so I think that in the sense of, of the path of the company, the growth, all of that, it was pretty clear. There are moments in time where quite a few moments where you're not sure if you're going to kill the company by the decision you're going to take today or not.
Right. That's it. It's always those decisions happen all the time. But speaking about the growth, what are the things that you guys did well in order to reach the milestones that we're at right now? Like, what milestones did you reach? Not necessarily milestones, but like, what did you do well in the beginning stages that propelled you to go to your next round, to raise the $630 million and to achieve the revenue that you have achieved? What have you guys done well? And what have you not done well too?
I think that what we've done well is that we really invested a lot in the product itself.
Okay.
Much more than an average person would do. Much more, or average company would do. And the fact that we've imagined it as a platform from day one allowed us to build foundations that made it really easy to expand and extend the platform as we are growing. And so it created a position where every investment that we do in our product is making everything that we add to the product is making the core product better as well.
Right.
And if you think about it, it's not always the path, because sometimes when you add something, it's just another thing. So I have two things instead of one. But for us, if we have two things, each of them is stronger together than they are apart. Mm-hmm. And so that created like significant momentum for the company, and also ability for customers and prospects overlook mistakes, bugs, or issues that might come up, because everyone have a few. I think that it's always true in hindsight. I think that in some areas we could have and should have invested more in early stages, like in terms of in 2020 and 2021. I think we could have grown faster in terms of how much we've invested in go-to-market. Okay. We were a little bit conservative, but we felt like we are investing a lot, and we did. But in hindsight, we could have done more of that. And generally speaking, it's really difficult to say on what exactly I regret, because I don't know if those mistakes didn't make us better.
Right.
So I can also say that as long as that we are continuing to grow healthily, have more customers around the world, and happy customers, I'm more proud than regretful.
Right, interesting. How did you guys think about distribution in the beginning? Because I was speaking to somebody, one of the investors of the company, and he told me that in 2019, the acceleration of your growth was something that he's never seen before. Like the product accelerated, you achieved tremendous amounts of revenue very, very early on.
Yeah.
So what was it in the beginning that you guys go to market, distribution? How were you guys thinking about it back then? And I guess also like now, how do you think about it now too?
I think that we correctly recognize the fact that friction in the POC, friction in the deployment, friction in getting value is the core ability for us to deliver. And so we've made the onboarding of the product extremely easy.
Right.
Extremely easy. I mean, you could, in 3 clicks, onboard Orca. And that allowed us to be in situations. I remember I was in a meeting with our first customers, really first customer, and we were in the meeting, and the head of DevOps was in the room, the CISO was in the room, and a team leader from the DevOps were in the room. And the head of DevOps was shouting at the CISO and saying, I cannot install any more tools. We cannot absorb this impact. How many tools are you buying? Shouting at him. And we don't have any more time to do these installations and so on. And as he was shouting, the team leader just installed Orca.
On the spot?
Yeah.
Wow.
And he asked him, like, how long will it take us to install it? He said, never mind, install it while you were shouting. I said, what? Yeah, I did it already. Okay. And so it's being able to do something that frictionless and that fast and to show value was eye-opening for our customers.
Right.
Okay. And so when you compare, let's say you have an idea of something that requires, I don't know, it's a great idea. It gives you amazing value as a customer, security value, whatever the value of your company provides, but it gives you a lot of value, but requires unique deployment, a lot of attachment, requires changing workflows or processes. All of that will be really difficult to sell.
Yeah.
Okay, think how many people can say no. And so To show tremendous growth, you need a product that is really easy.
How do you, but as your product continues to scale, there's more complexities, more features, more things within it. So how do you make sure you constantly keep it simple? Or how do you have that in front of mind constantly, that your product has to be the KISS? You know, was it keep it simple, stupid or something? Some acronym like that. How do you make sure you keep it simple still?
I think we've struggled quite a bit with how to keep it simple.
Okay.
And we've made mistakes on how to keep it simple. Because adding stuff makes it more complicated. And you need to work very, very hard to make it simple again.
Right.
And I think one of the things that we've learned is that instead of just adding stuff, we are consistently thinking of what we are trying to solve for.
Okay.
And that makes it different. And I try to explain what I mean around that. Okay, so let's say you want to get somewhere and you can walk.
Right.
Okay, and then using wheels is probably more efficient and people like wheels, so you take a bike, but using a car is better. And so let's take a car, but then you need to park. So there's like an element of things that you need to think about and then say, what did I try to achieve? I wanted to go from point A to point B. What's the best way to go from point A to point B?
Right.
Should I take an Uber? Maybe then I can avoid the challenges I have with my car and still get the value. And so we are applying a similar way of thinking in the product. There's this amazing capability that everyone are excited about, AI. Sorry for saying the word AI so many times, but AI, right? But what is generative AI useful for? In my opinion, it's really useful for communication. It's really useful for helping you generate code, for example, or generate remediation steps, for translating between people, changing languages or changing between technical discussion to a security-oriented discussion. Right. So all of that, it's really useful. So how can do people want to hear that they have AI in the product? I'm not sure they care too much. Do they love the fact that they have code remediation ready for them exactly the way they write it in their code base? Yeah, they love it.
Yeah.
And so that's I think the important thing on everything you add. If you have more capabilities, more opportunities, really try to think what are you solving for. And then it will make you change stuff you've did in the past based on this new capability.
Right. So it's essentially always having the customer in mind, always trying to do,
Always try to understand why you're doing it in the first place. It's not for the technology, right?
Yeah.
It's not for checking the box. It's for solving something. And then once you do that, by the way, suddenly all the doors open because you just say, yeah, I understand you want 1, 2, and 3 and you have it in the RFP. But why do you need it? Right. What are you going to do with it? What if I have it, but when you're using it at Orca, you're also getting this set of new values. And then suddenly it cleans the slate. You know, it's a different discussion.
Right.
It's differentiated.
Who was the first customer that believed in you guys and signed the contract and gave you first revenue?
So Fiverr was the first customer. And I remember that we once we installed, the CISO said, well, I don't feel comfortable using the product and not paying for it because of the amount of value I'm getting from the product. And he immediately became a customer. Like, I think after 3 weeks, he asked to start paying for the product.
Wow. What was it feeling internally within the team?
It was amazing. Really amazing. Like, I think it was a little bit overwhelming, especially for us as engineers at the end. Yeah. Like, oh, wow, you want to pay for it. That's great. I was not ready for that.
And then from there, scaled. Someone else asked me, like, I was speaking to another investor, and he said I should ask you about how did you guys think about fundraising when it came to choosing the funds you chose over the course of the amount of money you fundraised. So, your seed round was led by YL. Then you went to GGV, which is now known as Notable, together with YL. And then you had multiple rounds already by now. So the question is essentially, how do you think about fundraising the investors you chose to fund Orca?
I think that what really made a difference for us is funds that really can contribute and support us and give us things that we don't have.
Right.
Okay, so even though we know security and we know the market, we didn't know how to sell. didn't know how to do a POC, we didn't know how to build pipeline and manage that pipeline, and we need someone to help us with that. Everything you can buy, everything you can learn, but there's like this very strong power of, you know, having someone that is a true partner and helps you to progress and succeed, and can connect you to the right people to do that. I think another factor is are these people you want to work with. And, you know, I think I'm very fortunate. I have an amazing board of people way smarter than me that I can call them anytime and ask questions or ask them who they think I should talk to about something.
Right.
And they are really helpful. And I think that if you find these kinds of people, most likely that there's others that trust them, and they will help you raise also your next round.
Right. Interesting. How much money you've raised to date?
630, I think.
Wow. It's a lot of money.
A good start.
If you think about, like, you know, Orca is in a unique class where if I think about the amount of unicorn cybersecurity startups there are in Israel, I think I've counted a total of less than 20.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely more than 15. I think less than 20. Maybe a little more, something like that. So it's a very special place to be at. Is this something that when you thought of, like, you speak about, like, how can you push someone to overcome boundaries, or like you mentioned before, how do you overcome problems? The first thing you do is you imagine yourself going through that scenario, so that way it removes all obstacles and fears. When you started this, Orca, did you think you'll reach this place we're at right now?
I didn't think I tried to solve to be in this place, and the reason is simple. Like, first of all, of course, it's beyond my imagination, okay? In the sense that I am really, really appreciative on everything we've done. And also, like, if you ask me, hey, Gil, so why don't you do another one? Like, I think that, you know, a combination of circumstances, technologies, challenges, world pandemics and others contributed to the ability to achieve what we've done. And I think that also today, maybe one of my weakest or strongest spots is that I'm focused on solving problems.
Right.
And so the problem that I'm trying to solve is how to secure your cloud. That's the problem I'm trying to solve. And then maybe some people won't like it that I'm not solving for how to build the biggest security company in the world. That's not, I'll be glad to be the largest security company in the world, but it's not my mission. And that's why when you ask, like, did you imagine that you're going to be in that spot? No, because I didn't. It was not a problem I was trying to solve for.
Right.
And similarly, like when people ask me, hey, Gil, so is Orca going public? Is the company going to consolidate to someone else, or going to consolidate with someone else?
Right.
And then the answer is, at the end, I'll do what I think is best for making sure that cloud is more secure. I'll do what I think is best to make sure that the employees that, you know, spending time, money, blood and tears to make sure it's a success, are successful. That my investor that, as mentioned, I love them. They are partners of my journey. Right. I get a good outcome. And last but not least, I do hope that we'll be able to do an IPO. Right. And we are building towards allowing us to be there. But it's not our goal. It's point in time.
Right. So you don't get sidetracked by shiny objects.
It's not that interesting for me. I'm more focused on solving problems. It's a point in time. Right. After the IPO, what happens then?
How much of your time is spent between solving external problems within the company versus solving internal stuff?
I think the vast majority is internal stuff.
Like what? Like management? What is?
It's mostly it's around how to collaborate better, how to achieve more with what we have, and how we need to keep our eyes on the ball.
Right.
In terms of where we are going and what we need to achieve. I think that in terms of external problems, they come and go, but honestly, I think that the outside world is way less fixed on you and focused on you than you might think.
Yes.
And so it's not like, I don't know, maybe God sometimes have fun and throws a few darts next to you just for the fun of it. But I think that generally speaking, it's true for most companies, the problems that you have, you are most likely the one who created these problems and challenges, and you need to solve them.
Yeah.
And if you'll and there's only so much you can do about the way that other company act or react, or that the market acts or reacts. You have to focus on what you can change. And I can change myself. I don't know how to change others.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the vast majority of my time is invested internally in self-improvement as a company, because that's the real challenge. And everything that is going right is because we've done something right, and everything that is going wrong is because we've done a few things wrong.
Yeah, that's true. I like what you said. The world is not focusing on you. Most times, a person always thinks that everyone's looking at them, everyone's worried about them, everyone's talking about them. Really, no one gives a shit. I mean, no one's talking about you, no one's thinking about you. So it's all about.
Sorry to hear that, but okay.
But the same thing with a company.
Yeah.
No one's worried about you. You have to focus on your mission. You have to go ahead and build. You have to do what's right for you. Don't get sidetracked by the shiny objects. Know what the goal is. Know where you want to go. And just go ahead and double down and build and do the right thing. Do the right next step. How did you evolve as a CEO? Like what has the growth been? Like, for example, if I were to go ahead and ask your wife and say, hey, do you recognize Gil from before he was the founder of a company to after he was the founder of a company? Like, how has that personal development happened?
I think that, so first of all, I didn't start as the founder, as the CEO of the company. I started actually as the chief product officer.
Right.
And, but in any case, there was a significant change before Orca and after Orca. And like, if you ask my wife, she will say it's a completely different person. And I think that it's not around how hard I'm working. I've been always working hard on everything that I've been doing. And I was really passionate about everything that I've ever did, seriously. And I think that the difference is around things that you lose sleep on, or you're focused on, and the fact that you feel obligated to your team and to your investors, and you want to make sure that you're doing the right things. And so it's more around the fact that you're preoccupied with what are you missing, what else you need to do, how you need to do it better. And yeah, I'll admit, most of the time I'm not satisfied with what I'm doing or the way that I'm doing it, and I'm consistently thinking how I can do it better. It's true for work, but it's also true, by the way, at home. Like, as a parent and stuff like that, you always think about, am I a good parent? Am I as good parent as I thought I would? I'm sure I'm not as good as I thought I would be. But at the end, maybe I'm not the worst. And that balance creates a lot of challenge. And also there's cases that company comes first, and it's really difficult on the family and to see that, where there's something in your life that comes first sometimes.
Right. So in your mind, like, it's funny, you mentioned, I saw a saying somewhere, I don't know where I got it from, actually, I don't know who the author is. It says, you're not as good as you always think, and you're not as bad as you always think you are. So you're always somewhere in the middle ground over there. But when you think about, like, when you like, I want to get inside your mind for a second. Are you saying, like, most of when you talk about the fact you're focusing on, let's say, problems or things like that, most of your mind is always on the company versus, let's say, your own internal self-development or anything else, family. It's always like, okay, how can I make the company better? What am I doing wrong? Like, I know for me, for example, right? I'm always thinking about, like, how can I build the best venture capital fund that I can build? And 90% of my mind is on that daily. Then there's how can I become a better person, and how can I work on myself? How can I become a better parent, a better husband, a better son, a better brother and friend. But most of my time is like focused on, like, I want to build an incredible venture capital fund that's making a massive difference. How's it working in your mind, in your head?
So I think one of the things I took in was a little bit of description from people of the Navy.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're familiar with that. The way they structure it is that there's the boat, there's the team, and then there's you.
Yes. Okay.
And it's true for any individual, including myself. And there's the company, there's the team, and then there's you. And when there's you, I don't mean only about myself, also about an individual employee. I had cases where I had to fire talented, amazing, nice friends that work with me. And I had to do it because it was not the right thing for the company at the moment.
Right.
And if you're thinking about it that way, if you're thinking about the company first, if you're thinking about the company as a company, then it frees you to take more good decisions than bad ones.
Right.
It allows you to take harder decisions easier, because usually you know what's right for the company. Usually what's more difficult is the personal aspect of what that decision means.
Right.
And I think I learned pretty quickly that while sometimes it's not the best for that individual, it is much, much better for everyone else. And there's a lot of people you can let down, that will be let down or disappointed if you won't make that difficult or important decision.
Right. How do you generally make important decisions? Like, what's your process for that?
Usually I try to understand the problem well.
Okay.
And then if I need to talk to someone, I talk to someone. If I have time, sometimes you don't have time. Mm-hmm. And then just understand whether I need to make the decision. Sometimes it's someone who's working with you that needs to make the decision, and try to get to that decision as fast as possible. Like making decisions is one of the most important things as a manager.
Yeah.
People tend to think that sometimes it's really empowering. They come to you and they present you the data, and then you empower them by not making a decision. They are forced to make a decision. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, it's terrible.
Okay.
Because they came to you because they don't know how to make a decision.
Right.
If you want them to take a decision, ask them, okay, so what do you recommend? What do you want to do? If they came to you for asking for a decision or for presenting you with a problem, they need to go with a solution.
Right.
Now, if you need more data, if you need more information, ask them to get more data. And if it's one, do one. If it's two, do two. But there shouldn't be a second meeting.
Right. Interesting. How much when they come through the decisions and you're providing them for an answer, how much of it is based upon internal instinct and how much is based upon previous experience?
What's the difference?
Oh, there is a difference. One is previous experience, you've been through that situation before, so you know this is the correct way to go about it. Internal instinct is more like you have that gut feeling like, okay, I think this is the right way to go.
I think the vast majority is deduction based on experience, for me at least.
Yeah.
In terms of, similar to other things or sometimes it's based on what's the cost of mistake. And if it's not significant, then it's okay to try. And I think that other cases and if you don't have any, you're really stuck, just take one decision. Take one direction and work your way from there. Right. There's many cases where, not many, but there are cases where you could, it's called analysis paralysis, right? You can get more and more and more and more and more information. And if you feel that it starts to be, repetitive, stop it, make a decision and move on.
Yeah. Also, I find that when you're in that analysis paralysis mode, it doesn't help you at all because you're just trying to accumulate more information. And eventually you're you get stuck down a rabbit hole and everything. What has surprised you most so far, about the founder experience and being CEO?
I think that a little bit surprised me, how much of, of a personal toll it has in terms of the investment, in terms of time, family. I migrated my family here to the US because of work, because of my job. And I think also I was really surprised how strong of a community there is. Almost, I think everyone that you would ask for help will help you.
Yeah. And
talk to you and try to do something to help you improve it. And I think that you should always try to ask for help.
There's nothing wrong with asking.
Yeah. People can say no, and usually they don't say no.
Right. So I hope people take advantage of that and reach out to you and ask you for help.
I think I had quite a few opportunities to be there for others, and same the other way around.
Right. And on the family side, is there anything you doing now to try to, obviously it's going to infringe, but on the way to this interview, I was reading this book, and it brings down from this guy, Mark Randolph, who was the first CEO of Netflix and one of the co-founders of Netflix. And in the company, it was known that every Tuesday at 5 p.m., Mark would leave the office and go have dinner with his wife or go to a movie or something like that. And Mark Randolph writes in his book that no matter what, this was my Tuesday, 5 p.m. was no matter what. And that was able to show to my wife that I was dedicated to her and dedicated to the family. And I was able to prove to myself that I have this commitment to my family no matter what. Any other day of the week, he would be who do need to work. But 5 p.m. on Tuesday was his commitment. Do you have such like a commitment that set in stone that this is whatever it could be, family time, this is my family time, this is my time, whatever, something like that? Because as a founder, multiple things are getting thrown at you. As a CEO, you're busy 24/7 pretty much.
There are times I'm trying to do that, but it's not that strict.
Right.
And whether it's a mistake, maybe. But I think actually the other thing, the way that worked for us is actually understanding that personal time will also be involved around work.
Yeah.
And that actually helps both me and my wife, to not feel bad when we are on vacation. We have to take a business call. Mm-hmm. And so instead of making it a taboo, don't call me, I'm on vacation. Don't call me, I'm with the kids. Instead of doing that, I'm trying to be with my kids. I'm trying to be on a vacation, in the vacation. But if someone needs me, most of the time they are trying to avoid of doing it while I'm on vacation. If they're doing it, they really need me. And I have no problems. I'll jump on a call. I'll talk to them. And my wife knows and my family knows, okay, if he's doing it, it's probably important.
Right.
And it's way better than, being there in the moment, so to speak, but not being in the moment, because you're like, I have so many things to do. Like, I really shouldn't have left the office today. It was, and that's not a good spot to be in either. Like, is that the experience you want them to feel?
Yeah.
And for us, it really improved the time in the vacation, because, hey, I need to do a call tomorrow at 6 a.m.
Right.
Good, great. So afterwards, we are doing that and that. That's it.
Yeah. I like that. I'm going to try implementing that, because that really gets them involved, knowing what's happening, and that it's not just not on your mind constantly, but it's a one-off. Like, this must be really important. This person's trying to get a hold of you now.
But let go of the guilt.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you did it for fun. At the end, it's work. It's your livelihood.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
something that you're really invested in, and it's important for you to succeed. I'm not doing something that is not urgent in that time.
Correct.
And at the same time, it is a significant portion of your life. If you're preoccupied and someone really needs you to handle something right now, then okay. Yeah. So 1 hour out of the 24 hours, I did something else. Okay.
Right. Okay. What message you want to give over to people? You have this broadcast, it's WhatsApp broadcast, or just a megaphone, you're able to reach however many people you want to reach in the world. What message you want to give over to people? It could be anything, it could be to new entrepreneurs, to kids just graduating college, to older people in their mid-careers, or anybody else. What do you want to tell?
I think that you should, if you want to make an impact, you should always push yourself. And when I mean push yourself, I mean consistently think of what you can do and what you can do better. Don't let go of your core values. Right. Of doing it in the right way, do it in an ethical way. And when you're pushing yourself, remember that the road is long and hard, and it requires a lot of grit to get there.
Yeah.
And so even when you hear a great story of someone who's amazingly successful and great for him, it doesn't mean it was easy, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And so if it's hard for you, doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah. What's the saying? Everyone is a 20-year overnight success. Yeah. Gil, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
Likewise. Thank you so much for listening to this conversation. I hope you enjoyed and you're able to take something and apply it to your personal or professional life today. Because the whole reason why we had these conversations is that we are able to learn from these phenomenal people of how they built their companies and how they become better people, so that we can apply these lessons into our own life. Now, if you have any suggestions for me, which can be how to make this platform better. It could be anything from asking better questions or suggestions on certain guests that we should have, or any other type of way how we can improve this platform. Please reach out to me. Now, before we go, like I mentioned previously, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review, because when you do that, you give the opportunity of someone else to come across and find this podcast so they can listen and improve their life too. Now, I hope to see you back very soon for a brand new episode.